I'm Beth, and these are my memories. To the complex and precious people who appear in them, thank you. I forgive you, and I'm sorry. You shaped me, and I carry you still. In remembering, I've come to see us all more clearly, not as villains or saints, but as humans doing the best we knew how. I must have forgotten. Until now. Not all phobias have direct causes, but some do. I'm a claustrophobe. I think it's improving a little as I get older, but I still can't understand how people can go cave diving or climb into tiny caves headfirst and squeeze themselves dozens of yards by wriggling on their stomachs or worse, their backs. Voluntarily jamming myself into a hole for fun? That is just incomprehensible to me. I have to take a benzodiazepine just to get through an MRI, and I still prefer an open one. When I was little, I had nightmarish dreams of being trapped in a culvert under the road, blocked on both ends, water trickling in from the direction the creek flowed. Even at 4 years old, I knew what would happen when the culvert filled with water. And I knew that those blocked ends meant I was captive. I wasn't getting out. Judith was 4 years older, and her games could be rough. They weren't fun for me. One of her favorite games was throwing Dad's scratchy wool army blanket over me and sitting on top. Maybe she forgot what it was like to be so little. I don't think she knew how scared I was, how hot it got under there, how hard it was to catch a breath. I couldn't see, couldn't move, couldn't guess how long she'd hold me there. I was little, and I was trapped, and it haunted me. At 4 years old, I had begun to dream of being entombed. I don't have the nightmares anymore, but more than half a century later, I still avoid tight spaces. I've come to understand that small decisions people make can stay with others for a lifetime. And that means I have also caused harm where none was intended. That's the unspoken truth of growing up. We carry what was done to us. We reckon with what we've done to someone else. I didn't know it then, but that fear of being trapped, of being surrounded with no way out, would become about more than just small spaces. It was sometimes being stuck in a moment, sometimes being lost in a story I couldn't write the ending to, and sometimes it was about being caught in a loop I couldn't name. I was a claustrophobe, yes, but I would learn how to navigate those scary places, even when they weren't made of stone or wool or culverts. I turned 6 in Virginia. It wasn't a planned birthday trip. Our first big family vacation just happened to land on my 6th birthday. It wasn't supposed to be about me, but somehow it turned into a milestone. Nothing about it was ordinary. My dad's dad, Albert, had a half-brother named Dewey who lived in Abingdon, Virginia, and Grandpa wanted to go see him. I don't know how often they'd met before, but not many times. So my dad packed us all into the car, and off we went. Dewey was always a bit of a skeleton in the family closet. My great-grandfather had married one woman, then gotten her sister pregnant. Yikes. My great-grandmother demanded the family leave Virginia, and her strumpet of a sister, apparently.
You stay here, we're leaving.
She probably should have left the cheating husband behind too, but we don't always make the best choices, especially when pride and shame are tangled up in the same suitcase. If Strumpet's sister wanted him, I'd have let her have him and said good riddance to them both. But I was little, I didn't know any of that. I just knew it was my birthday, I was turning 6, and because of some illegitimate relative, we were driving all the way to Virginia to have ice cream and cake. I remember the drive to Virginia. We took 2 cars. My dad loved Corvairs, and back then we had 2 of them, a blue one and a white one. One of them had a hole in the floor in the back seat. We could see the road rushing by beneath our feet. For the trip, someone put a cardboard box over the hole so no one got a foot caught in the blur of the highway. Or worse yet, lost a bottle of Coke. A calamity in a car full of hot, cranky people. We stopped a few times, mostly for bottles of Coca-Cola pulled from coolers perched outside of gas stations. We didn't see any real rest stops, just dusty little gas stations. Phillips 66, Mobil, Gulf, or in the small towns they had names like Bud's Service Station or Last Gas for miles. Vending machines existed, but they were mostly for cigarettes. Rarely we would see the kind with a tall, skinny glass door that displayed the Coke bottles in a vertical stack, and it held all of them hostage until you fed it coins and made your selection. They didn't dispense automatically. You had to reach in and wrestle your bottle free, like the machine had not agreed to these terms. And everything came in glass bottles that we had to wash and return to the grocery store to get the nickel deposit back. But most of the service stations we stopped at had big chest refrigerators on the front porch. You flipped up a big lid and pulled out the bottle you wanted. No locks, no alarms, no security, just trust. You grabbed your bottle and went inside to pay for it. Anyone who tried to grab the bottle and walk away would have had to deal with Bud stepping outside, the disappointed stare of a high school principal, and the drawl of someone who'd seen it all.
Did you forget to pay for that, son?
Wherever we stopped, that town's Bud had a twang that got deeper the further into the mountains we drove. Along the way, we saw women with little hair nets on their buns. Mennonites, I later learned. The men looked like anyone else, but the women always had that tidy bun and net. They were kind of the halfway mark between people like me and the Amish. We didn't have air conditioning in cars back then. July, small car, Dad smoking the whole way. The windows were rolled down, but it was still hot and smoky, and we were tired of being in the car. We stopped halfway at a Holiday Inn, my first time in a hotel. They were like 2-story motels back then. Just long rows of doors, some on the ground floor, some on a balcony, long before they turned into conference centers. Judith and I swam in over-chlorinated blue water while the adults talked poolside. Their voices and drifting smoke seemed like it came from farther away than they really were. Tommy was too little to swim, but Mom held him and let him splash in the water. And finally, we had arrived in Abingdon, Virginia, and tumbled out of the car into what felt like a magical place. The cousins lived on a farm nestled at the foot of a mountain. Everything was so green and cooler than I expected. There was a sloped pasture with horses behind a wooden fence, and their house was an A-frame. The roof came to a sharp point like an ice cream cone, a life-sized fairy house in a forest. My dad's cousin's wife made me a cake. They packed a lunch, and we all headed for a little park across the state line for my birthday party. The park was in Tennessee, a place called Backbone Rock, a name that would come to symbolize a rite of passage for me. I didn't know why it was called that. Maybe Backbone Rock should have been named after my great-grandma for the spine it took to drag a family
Put down your suitcase. I told you you can't come.
out of Scandal and into Indiana. I just knew it seemed like a steep, big hill with some picnic tables at the bottom. This is where we were headed. The women, well, of course the women, laid out all the food. The men and the kids all made a hike up the rock. There was a path, a little bit steep, but not insurmountable. I was just barely 6 and I could do it. The women, all of them in dresses, wouldn't try it. That seemed silly to me. We climbed up. We looked around. And we all climbed back down. It was time to eat. Lunch was eaten. The cake was pulled out. Candles were lit. Happy Birthday was sung in a harmony not of tones, but of accents. Then the adults settled into their grown-up conversations, the most interminable thing ever if you're 6. It was my birthday. Were these large people going to drone on forever about the old days? I didn't know my cousins very well, though they were nice enough. They were older, probably able to follow the grown-up talk. I had no such interest. I grabbed a stick and poked it into the ground. This was a good stick, a trail stick. That stick became a magic wand, a compass, a dare. With this stick, I could go anywhere, and who was going to stop me? In a flash, I turned idea into action. I remembered how we'd walked down a little ways, turned right past some shrubbery, and picked through an opening to get to the trail to the top. Finding the trailhead was kind of the hardest part. Away I went, and up. I reached the top of Backbone Rock and looked around, just like I'd seen my dad do earlier. He'd said he could probably see Abingdon from there. I looked, but I didn't know which way Abingdon was, even if I could see that far. And from where I stood, I couldn't even see the picnic tables. They were too close to the slope's face, and the face was too steep. I wasn't sure anymore which side of Backbone Rock the picnic tables were even on. I was pretty brave, but I was starting to not be as brave as I thought I was. I was ready to go back down, but I couldn't see where the trail was. I wish someone would come up here. I knew enough not to get too close to the edge. So I stopped about 10 feet from the drop-off and I cried out in a not at all brave enough to be 6 years old voice.
Dad, I can't get down. Help, somebody come and help me.
At first, I didn't hear anything. So I shouted again,
Help me, I can't get down. I'm scared.
That's when I heard the grown-ups starting to understand that the little one had wandered off from the flock and gotten trapped. I heard my dad's voice calling up to me.
Just stay right there. Don't get close to the edge. I'm coming to get you.
After a few minutes, my hero popped out through the shrubs like the first man on the moon, like a traffic cop at the scene of an accident, like a firefighter arriving at a fully engulfed house, like a daddy climbing Backbone Rock to rescue his little girl on her birthday, like a screenwriter fixing the ending to avert a potential disaster. He picked me up and carried me back down the trail. He made me leave my stick at the top. It had taken me all the way up, and I had left it behind like it was nothing. I hoped someone else would find it and appreciate what a great stick it was. My mom hugged me tightly and told me I could have really hurt myself up there. She asked if I had scratches from the bushes or if I'd fallen on the trail. The grown-ups teased me a little bit.
What's the matter with you, kid?
They told me I shouldn't have gone up there by myself. But they weren't really mad, and then they gave me more cake. I ate it, feeling oddly accomplished. I'd been brave enough to climb, scared enough to call for help, and lucky enough to be carried back to safety. Fear doesn't always come from trauma. Sometimes it comes from thoughtless pranks and sisters who forgot what it was like to be little. But sometimes, on your 6th birthday, it gets you carried down a mountain by your dad. For a long time, I had forgotten the birthday my family spent at Backbone Rock. But never could I forget the terror of being pinned under those scratchy wool blankets. I just didn't know it would follow me into every MRI machine I'd ever be wedged inside. Thank you for listening. These are my memories, and maybe they echo yours too. I must have forgotten, but I remember now. Sound design for this episode includes excerpts from MuseHub and Pixabay. These audio textures help carry the memory, shape the emotional arc, and are honored with gratitude here.